I think 2024 is not only like the milestone for us, for VeChain, but also even for the entire crypto industry. I
Mm.
feel like the entire crypto world is having a major change following the regulation progress. I think whatever the ETF or the Mica progress will open the door for the world's, the biggest institutional investors to enter the crypto space.
This content is brought to you by Uphold, which is a great crypto platform that I've been using since 2018. Uphold has all the top cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and all the altcoins. In fact, they have 260 plus cryptocurrencies on their platform. You can also trade precious metals, stable coins, and 37 fiat currencies. In addition, they are available in over 150 countries. And this platform is fully reserved. They do audits, so you can trust that your funds are safe, no commingling, no lending out your funds. If you'd like to learn more about Uphold, please visit the link in the description. Welcome to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is Sunny Liu, who is the co-founder and CEO of VeChain. Sunny's no stranger to the show. Welcome back, Sunny.
Thank you, Tony. Nice to be here. And I always enjoy the conversation with you. It's quite inspirational. And I hope we can, talk more about the future crypto and what VeChain is going to do.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of updates around VeChain, a lot of questions I have from the community for you. Let's start with, in general, what's top of mind for you for 2024 for VeChain? What's on your roadmap this year?
Well, honestly, I think, now everyone is, keep the close eyes on what's going on in terms of the ETF or Mica progress in Europe. I think 2024 is not only like the milestone for us, for VeChain, but also even for the entire crypto industry. I
Mm.
feel like, the entire crypto world is having a major change following the regulation progress. I think whatever the ETF or the Mica progress will open the door for the world's the biggest institutional investors to enter the crypto space. It kind of paved the way for the mass adoptions
Mm.
of blockchain and crypto in the real world. VeChain has been focused on enterprise level applications adoptions, building up hundreds of different enterprise applications in the past. But I feel like the major challenge is, or the something we're missing there is about the token utility or having the token in the design for the enterprise applications. While whatever the ETF progress or the Mica progress in Europe, it kind of paves the way for that. Actually, we already got several inquiries from different type of enterprise. It could be a new Web3 companies, it could be a traditional Web2 companies. They are starting to like, okay, what can we do now? It's the world is being changed, and we should explore more opportunities to go for it. So for VeChain, we identify ourselves, let's say, as the enabler for the blockchain ecosystem. And also in last year, in 2023, we released the third version of white paper focused on the sustainability areas. We believe that sustainability is the low-hanging fruits for the real Web3 mass adoptions. So I think it's 2024. Honestly, I'm pretty excited about that. I think this is the year for every player in the crypto space. We have the right time window. We have all of the right readiness in terms of the regulation support, in terms of the market educations, and we're ready to really bring to the next level in terms of the blockchain application, in terms of mass adoptions.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, it just seems a lot of the world governments are moving towards providing clear regulations. You mentioned the MiCA because you're in Europe. Given that regulation has passed, and I know the UK also passed regulations, do you feel
Yes.
more comfortable as an entrepreneur and an innovator to, be able to expand your business as a result of those regulations?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've been, I can, well, actually, I just passed the 10 years anniversary in the crypto space. I started everything in 2013, and I can feel like so much changes,
Mm,
in terms of the market adoptions. Starting from 10 years ago when people try to ask you what to do, they were starting to ask you like, okay, what is a Bitcoin? What do you mean mining? What do you mean those ECDSA? Those type of the questions. But I think right now it's way beyond that. Actually, people are more interested to discuss and explore the different type of use cases and different type of applications, what kind of the benefits, not only from the blockchain side, but also from the crypto side. I think one of the major significance of whatever the ETF or the Mica is actually kind of clear the name of the crypto. In the past, I got that kind of the misperception from, especially from those traditional enterprise conversations. They were like kind of linked to, oh, crypto equals scam, equals FTX collapse, those
right.
kind of the things. So they were refused to, let's say, even go deeper. But now, it really kind of opened up the door. Like the whatever the blockchain technology, crypto technology is just a tool, right?
Right.
And the regulation is kind of the guarantee to make sure the tool is put in the right hand and to create something amazing, creating something valuable, creating something new, be more innovative. So, especially in the past few months, during the several conversations with different type of enterprise use cases, we kind of feel the more willingness to
Mm,
explore, and even some of the enterprise give us that I quote from them. It's like, oh, finally, I'm able to make some real innovations. So now we're talking something like a real blockchain or crypto utilities
mm.
to could gain the benefits for those enterprise for those benefits.
That's great news. And I'm hoping here in the United States, where I'm based, that they are able to pass comprehensive regulations like the Mica bill here in the United States, and we have more clarity here. But it seems like some of these things are in the works. Now, I do want to ask you about specific partnerships and updates that were in the news. For example, VeChain's partnership with Boston Consulting Group. Tell us about that
Mhm.
partnership and how you'll be working together.
Yeah, well, actually, everything starts from well, during the COVID. Actually, I was connecting with managing director of BCG Dallas, Dr. Guy Gilliland. He's very interesting about the crypto. He's believing the blockchain, the future, and everything. And he screened up all of the different type of the projects, and eventually we make the connection. We start to meet together, and interesting thing is we find we are quite in common. Firstly, VeChain start to let's say concentrate our focus, our strategy into the sustainability implementations, try to build the sustainability applications involving the normal people, involving the individuals. And actually, BCG, they're having the similar global strategy. Actually, sustainability also sits in the top of the list of the emissions globally. So it's basically like, we instantly connected to each other and to discuss about what we can build, what we can explore in the future. Even though at that time, we don't have that much clarity in terms of the regulation environment. Can we do this? Can we do that? But I think the strong faith about the future of blockchain, future of the crypto, kind of binding us together. So we start from first the delivery in 2023. We released the third version of white paper together. It's a co-authored by BCG and VeChain. We call it Web3 for Better,
Mm,
and demonstrate, let's say, make our statement why we wanted to focus on the sustainability, how we're going to do it, and what is the future, what is a market projection about the future Web3, we call it Web3 sustainability ecosystem we can build together. And then, after the white paper, we're basically collaborate more about it, in a different ways. For example, in the last October, we went to the Boston. We have the amazing VeChain hackathon collaborating with EVA, with BCG also together into, let's say, to organize a very successful hackathon to acquire more sustainability applications or projects to try to build together. And looking forward, not only about we're gonna launch 4 or 5 different hackathons this year, and BCG is definitely right along. We also working together try to build up the new business model for the future Web3 sustainability ecosystem. How are we gonna bring the enterprise into the new world with the token in play, build up the new type of, let's say, crypto applications into that. So basically, we try to leverage with BCG's resource, especially the industry know-how, like we did before with DMV, with PwC. Now we just have a new partner as a BCG, to be able to go to the market together. So I'm pretty excited about that, and lots of things are going on actually.
Yeah, that's exciting. Now, I remember as an OG in VeChain and learning about the blockchain and the use cases you were targeting, and it was supply chain management. So you mentioned sustainability. Does that include like carbon credits or sourcing where products are pulled from and tracking that, kind of like supply chain? Tell us a bit about that sustainability use case and what it entails.
Well, firstly, we're not changing the directions. Okay, we're just upgrading let's say the directions or the strategy or focus. Let's put it this way: even you think about the sustainability applications, there are many type of those kind of use cases. Even in the past, we have done several cases like recycled material tracking for H&M, or carbon credits coming from the EV management for BYD, or receipt projects for ocean cleanup. Those type of, let's say, sustainability applications also requires similar practice in terms of supply chain management. Actually, I would consider supply chain management is one of the, let's say, necessary step for any kind of enterprise on board to the blockchain phase. It could be, we call it the low-hanging fruits for them to, coming on board the blockchain technologies. And, since a couple of years ago, we tried to summarize and what could be, and think about what could be the, let's say, the future blockchain applications with token in play. And we identify, sustainability is the most common topic for everyone. And also, I feel, firstly, it's the right thing to do. And also, I feel like, I believe Web3 is the right answer to what sustainability is really missing, which is actually, individual, normal people involvement. We usually say, sustainability shouldn't be a project for any kind of big corporation or association, even for a government. It shouldn't be a project. It shouldn't be a daily life for everyone. It's like how are we going to track and incentivize the normal people daily behavior and to eventually to create the collective value. So the future sustainability ecosystem we try to build, actually, I use the 3 lines to summarize. Firstly, how to incentivize individuals, based on your positive behaviors, based on your contributions, to sustainability environment. No matter how small or how fractional of your effort, but I would consider every effort counts. Right? So the first line is about how to incentivize individuals. And second, we wanted to launch it in a DAO model. So it means like we need to give the power to the people. Let the people to decide, what kind of the project you want to support, what kind of applications you wanted to participate, and then you play inside of those applications. You get incentivized from those contributions you do for sustainability. And last but not least is about the create collective values. So, like I mentioned, you could live in a very sustainable life, but the previous challenge is whatever you do, it's very difficult or hard to track and get recognized, right? But with the Web3, with the crypto, it's easy to do. You can live in a very sustainable life, like driving an EV. You can get a record from the EV driving. Or you drink a coffee, without using the waste, paper, plastic waste, and you can get recorded as well. So how in our ecosystem or in our platform, we will create a way to make those efforts to be collectible and eventually leading to a very big huge amount of value, we can generate, we can collect it, and eventually reveal and conduct it to the different enterprise for that kind of monetization process for that kind of value. I give an example. We do some research, and actually coming from the use case we did with BYD back to 2019. One EV driving, a normal people driving, let's say 15,000 miles per year. That's kind of normal, right? Normal people driving. And with that kind of driving, you can save, you can contribute, let's say, carbon footprint or carbon emission reduction, but the value could be only like $50 to $100. So think about the whole year driving. It feels like it's very fractional, very small amount of value, right? But think about that. If we're able to get 1 million cars, 1 million drivers a year, then we're talking about $50 to $100 million already. And just think about that. Tesla has 2 million cars manufactured every year and delivered to the market. Not mentioning about the BYD, not mentioning about all of the other EV players in the market. So we could talk about, 5 million car, 10 million car, even 20 million car, as an EV in the world. Then it's a huge amount of collective value we can create, and eventually going through some kind of process or new business model to realize the value and eventually incentivize every individual users to motivate them, promote them, to live in a sustainable life. I think that's the right way to do a real sustainability implementations, and the Web3 is a perfect answer for that. That's our focus. That's our goal.
Hi, everyone. Pardon the interruption. I'm Tony Edward, the founder and host of the Thinking Crypto podcast. I have a huge favor to ask you. If you haven't subscribed as yet on YouTube or the podcast platforms, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, hit the notification bell on the YouTube platform, and on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating and review. It supports the podcast. It allows me to bring great quality content to you. Thank you for your support, and I'll let you get back to the content. That makes sense. And let me put together a scenario here so make sure I wrap my mind around it. Let's say I have an EV. I also have my appliances in my house. Would the ideal scenario be that these, my car, my appliances are connected via the blockchain on, let's say, VeChain? And to your point, if I'm living a more sustainable life, that there could be some sort of token incentive that based on my performance, I would get rewards maybe every month, every quarter, that type of thing.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you're familiar with those type of X to earn, that type of Web3 applications, like in the most of the Web3 games, right? You play to earn, or like previous projects, several cases like walk to earn, run to earn, those type of things. So we wanted to identify those X to earn. Like X means meaningful. Like what do you mean, or what is the meaning to make it, let's say, sustainable or sustainability impacts to the world, right? And second is valuable. What kind of value could come in from your actions. And eventually it's feasible. You got to make it like doable, make it practical. Like what, several cases we did in the past, for example, with the BYD case, you can have, let's say, application installed in the car computer and, withdraw those data and eventually calculate how much carbon credits you do. So basically, based on the digital process of some of your actions and record in the blockchain and give you incentivized token right away based on the condition defined in the smart contract, that's a perfect answer for that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just there's a lot of possibilities that come from that. I'm already thinking like secondary markets. Like, could I take those credits? Maybe I can sell them. Maybe I can lend them out. Maybe I can do different things, purchase things with them. You see those possibilities as far as secondary markets?
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's also linked to a higher level question or challenge in terms of sustainability. Think about this. Everyone could do something to make the world better, right? You can let's say participate some of the campaign or events to clean up the beach, clean up the garbage out of the beach, or you can do something for the recycled materials, or you can do something to lower the carbon emissions. Every different way to make the world better. But how do you valueize? How do you see the let's say there is no standard in terms of how much value you create from those type of sustainability actions, right? So what we try to do is actually, to eventually let the market to decide, let the people to decide. You can see how much or how people can be incentivized to do this action, to do that action, to support this application, to support that application, and then eventually, we might create the kind of the market index to eventually to answer those type of the questions. I even make jokes to my team, like if we're eventually solve this kind of a economic puzzle for sustainability, you might be able to win the Nobel Prize for economics next year.
Yeah, that'd be very, very awesome. It's fascinating. There's so many avenues questions I want to ask you, but I have some other questions and I don't want to get off track. Tell us about the marketplace launch in the nodes or the node rewards program.
Yeah, well, it's actually a part of, let's say, the future sustainability ecosystem building. We will consider as one of the, let's say, key infrastructure. So firstly, serve the node rewards coming from our previous programs, X node program, economic node program. But actually going further, like what I just described as the future ecosystem, we wanted to launch the new initiative to attract those external applications to be able to incentivize users. So everyone could use the similar model and also the same tool to start to distribute the different token incentive to our users. So it's a very key infrastructure. We wanted to make it because eventually, like I said, the first line, for our future ecosystem is about incentivize individuals, right? So it really based on what you do, and it's more than just let's say normal user activity or actions, but it could be multiple different ways. Actually, talking about that, we're just launching the new grant program and try to apply the same methodology. We call it the grant 2.0. Previously we have a grant program, 30,000 as a top and, as a cap and to incentivize the developers to contribute to the VeChain ecosystem. So we're about to make an official announcement in a week or two. But let's say we go two directions. One, we upgrade the grant to be 100K as a cap. So give more let's say, flexibility or give more support, financial support to any kind of good project, to the top projects. That's the first. Secondly, we even down to actually, I kind of learning from the Twitter. We give more micro grants to people who are contributing to the ecosystem, to the VeChain's community as well, more than just coders, because we believe that the future, the ecosystem is not just about the developers. Developers for sure is very, very important, right? Plays a very important role. But actually, there are many normal people who are doing the different type of contributions, promoting, making the communication, even someone in our community making a song about us, so all of the different type of contributions, we also wanted to support them as well, to reward them as well. So it could be coming from $1,000 to be $3,000 or $5,000. So those kind of micro grants, we wanted to spread more support to the community members, encourage them together to build up, the future sustainability ecosystem with us together. So those type of, let's say, rewarding, it's going to be a main theme for 2024, even, following years for VeChain. We wanted to incentivize users to do the right thing, to do the positive thing, and eventually building up a right ecosystem together. Because that's, like I said, 2024 is going to be a very crucial for the entire crypto market, right? With all of the players coming on board, the big institutional investors coming on board, they will start to look at what kind of the real value, what kind of the real benefits coming out of the technology for the real world, right? So, I think it's quite a bullish for VeChain. That's what we have been doing for years. And we're very excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. There was a question that came from the community regarding, and this is probably going back to the sustainability, and we were talking about connecting devices, VeChain's IoT sensor and RFID technology. The question is, were there any updates there? And I'm assuming it's kind of along how it's going to be used is what we were just talking about, the mock scenario. My EV is connected to my fridge and a whole bunch of stuff like it.
Well, so firstly, we actually we already confirmed the participants to MWC Barcelona in February, end of February, early March. So we're gonna go there. We're gonna make let's say we're working very hard to get every readiness for the future sustainability ecosystem and also the incentivized system linked to not only the VeChain community members, like general communities, but especially giving the, let's say, more importance of the important roles to, we call it VeChain node holders, right? Ex-node holders, economic node holders. We want to give them more let's say, important role, and plus, for sure, linked to the extra incentive as well to build the future sustainability ecosystem. So now we're working like very hard. Even during the holiday season, no one from our team is taking a day off or something. We keep that kind of Slack conversations, meetings every day. So we're gonna make a more, let's say, comprehensive release in February. I would say later February, leveraging the opportunity in MWC to make quite a big exposure on that. So basically, let's say there are three key elements about the future ecosystem. One, for sure, number one is community members, right? We're gonna start with the current V family, but we wanted to expand not only to the crypto users, but also to the normal users, because sustainability is a mission for everyone. It's not only for crypto guys. We are just the pioneers because we know about crypto, we know how to use crypto, but our mission is how to providing the user-friendly tool to make the normal people coming on board. actually we already try different scenarios. For example, in ATP Rome and ATP Torino in Italy this last year, we kind of involving normal people to participate like A-word campaigns for sustainability, like calculate your carbon emission on your daily basis, and you're doing extra improvement. Like I'm taking the metro line other than driving the car, or I'm driving the EV other than the fossil cars. So I'm able to save more and contribute more. So those type of campaigns could engage the normal people, to be in that kind of the future sustainability ecosystem, play with a different type of X2M applications. The number two is about, let's say, the X2M projects. Like I mentioned, we're going to launch 4 or 5 different hackathons in 2024. We wanted to recruit more X2M projects, applications coming on board. We are going to provide lots of support, not only financially, but also, for example, the mentorship program. We're working with BCG. So BCG is going to be a mentor for those type of projects and help them to grow. And also we wanted to leverage the resources we have today, like the UFC events, ATP events, all of our media exposures, to help those X2M projects to grow as well. So number one is user, number two is application, and last but not least is all of the infrastructure supporters. Because our target is not only for Web3 companies, we're also targeting our strengths, the Web2 traditional companies.
Sure.
So with onboarding them, it gonna requires those regulated providers. For example, we already get listed in the Coinbase last year.
Yes.
So they will provide also the custodian service for most of our future enterprise users. And we're about to land another important one in Q1 this year as well. So basically, we need to get more regulated service providers, exchange, payment providers, custodian service providers. So when we onboard those enterprise users into the ecosystem, they have every readiness in terms of the technical support, not only coming from us, but coming from our partnership networks. So those 3 things are very, let's say, 3 key pillars for us to build the future ecosystem.
That's great. And I'm looking forward to the updates as this year unfolds. Were there any updates around the VeChain token or the VeThor token that you want to share? I know it's probably not a lot, but anything there?
Yeah. I know there are lots of debates about that. Actually, just 1 month ago, I was in one of the community Twitter space. I always answer that kind of the questions, and even in the middle of the discussions. So firstly, in terms of the VeThor, let's put it this way. I'm fully aware of the VeThor situations, and also fully aware of the debates on that. But actually, I have to be honest, different players or different people are representing different interests, let's put it this way, right? So the developers actually are quite enjoying the lower cost to building up the applications, especially for some of our community projects like VeThor. Actually, the founder of VeThor also made a very good voiced up in that kind of Twitter space, saying, "Oh, Sunny, this is actually very good to us because they are providing the free service in terms of NFT minting or NFT collection for the users. So if we increase, whatever the gas fees or, changing the, let's say there is some dramatic change in terms of the valuation of or the cost of each transaction, then, it will be quite a huge impact to their business model, right? For sure, from the investor point of view, they want to see the rise of the valuation. They want to see the returns. which honestly, I have to say, it never been the design of, it never been the purpose of the original design. The VeThor supposed to be, stable and, lower cost for the transactions. That's the main purpose. And plus, we are in the middle of, let's say, new ecosystem building. I'm kind of projecting there will be huge amount of transaction coming. Actually, we already see some of the progress. A few days ago, one of our major business user just reached to 2 million calls a day, which is quite a significant milestone. So with more and more these kind of transaction will generate the demands of VeThor, I would say it will be more sustainable, more, let's say, way to do that, right? And plus, I try to be a little bit defensive on this topic. The original change actually not really decided by myself or decided by the foundation. It was voted by the entire community. Actually, different people plays different roles. Maybe, let's say, the retail user make more voice up in the Twitter, while the developers are focused on building. But when they decide to vote, they cast more, let's say, weighted votes in that kind of the decision. But nevertheless, we keep this topic in our radar for sure, and keep monitoring the let's say the online on-chain data, and also to see, like, I don't mind to launch another votes, later on after we launch the better ecosystem, giving another few months, we see the trends or the transactions onboarded to the VeChain, then we can make a better estimation about that. I don't want to make a rush voting and then we make a changes, and then a few months later people see, oh, it's too expensive, let's change it again. That's something I try to avoid.
Right. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Final question here before I let you go. What are you most excited about in the over the next 2 years? It looks like we're heading into a next bull market, like you were saying at the beginning, that more enterprises are interested, and it's not the clarity from the regulations is coming. What are you most excited about?
I would say it's mass adoption, mass adoption, mass adoptions. I feel the timing is pretty right here. If we look back, like I said, I already stay in that crypto for more than 10 years now. And if we look back all of the history, the previous journeys, we see the different topics or different even hypes, right? From even the last wave is linked to the DeFi, linked to the NFT, or the previously is ICO, IDO, IEO, different ISOs. And now people are talking about ZK, talk about DApping, right? Decentralized infrastructure network, those different topics. But think about that. There are all, different tools or different technologies. And what we're really missing is about the use cases, like how we combine those different type of great inventions, like DeFi, NFT, ICO or DApping. How do we group them together and make a useful, valuable use case, and let the normal people can be beneficial from that, can be playing with that, like the internet, right? Sure. Nowadays, we're using email every day. We're using the social media every day. We watch the streaming online every day. So we need that type of a use case. And honestly, I think whatever the ETF progress or the regulation progress in the majority of regulators or jurisdictions in the world, it kind of paved the way for that. So it's like I feel like it's a calling for every builders in the crypto space, come to build the meaningful, valuable applications now. It's the perfect time. It's a perfect opportunity for us. And I think the whole world, especially coming from those big money, serious investors coming from the Wall Street, we got to show them the real value out of this technology, show them what kind of impacts that technology can really create, what kind of business can really create, not just trading or speculation.
Exactly.
Like finding out the concrete value to support any kind of the hype in the next bull runs. I think it's very, very important. It should be everyone's mission in the crypto space. And I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, exciting times ahead, and well said, Sonny. I'm looking forward to the updates around VeChain throughout this year, and we'll have to have you back on
Of
later
course.
this year. But thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much to having me back. And I like to come back very soon as well.